ever hear the tragedy of Darth Plagueis the Wise?
Nozick and Rawls were professors of philosophy at Harvard. They were perhaps the greatest political philosophers of the 20th century. Rawls was a left liberal and Nozick a right liberal. I recently talked to a girl who studied political science in her first year. She told me her professors gave her 100 pages of Rawls to read, but only 5 pages of Nozick. Apparently, they had decided that the left liberal point of view was so much better that there was no need to preoccupy oneself with the alternative. This video will tell you the opposite story, namely the story of how Nozick viewed things. As Palpatine says to Anakin when he wants him to turn evil,
It's not a story the Jedi would tell you.
this is not to say that Nozick was right about everything, or that we agree with him on every point. But we'll try to keep our own opinions out of it, because as Palpatine says,
He had such a knowledge of the dark side.
recently a new planet was discovered in a faraway star system. This planet is almost like Earth, except that here they care a lot more about fairness than we do. I will give you 3 examples of how society on this other planet is different. The first pertains to dating. In our world, anybody can just ask anybody out, but that's not fair. Pretty and charming people have unfair advantages when it comes to dating. But no one decided to be born pretty, and by and large, they didn't choose to have charming personalities. In other words, they have unfair advantages that allow them to get better mates. And that's not fair, so the state has to step in. If a pretty guy asks a pretty girl out, he will have to pay a tax. This tax will then go to help ugly guys get plastic surgery, new clothes, and attend charm school. If the state didn't do that, then the dating market would be an unregulated market. That would be anarchy. But now that the state steps in to rectify the differences, things are more fair. So it's a good thing that we have the state to help balance out these unearned advantages. We're not prohibiting anyone from dating who they like, we're just making sure things are fair. Now, a second difference between this fairer world and ours is that if you are too ugly to date, the state has to step in as well. I mean, if you are so ugly that only other ugly people want to date you, you cannot be said to have free choice of mate. Therefore, the state has to make sure that you are attractive enough to have a free choice. Otherwise, the state has to restrict your freedom to date until you're attractive enough to land a better mate, for your own sake of course. If very ugly people can't get really beautiful partners, that means that we don't have fairness. And on this planet, people really care about fairness. Here is a third way that societies on this other planet are different. They have something called the intellectual wholesomeness law. That means that intellectuals have decided what culture is wholesome and what is just empty calories. That means if you want to read Proust, you can do so tax-free, because Proust contains intricate symbolism, refined aesthetics, and deep reflections on the human condition. But Game of Thrones contains no such things, say the intellectuals. So, people who are too dumb to realise that they should be reading Proust will have to pay a special tax when they consume lowbrow culture like Game of Thrones. In other words, if you want to do Netflix and chill with Bay tax-free, you'll have to Proust and chill instead.
Ironic.
Now, what is the thin red line that connects all of these instances? Is it that these scenarios show what the logic that left liberals apply to economics would look like if they were applied to social policy? Scarlett Johansson and Ryan Gosling won the dating lottery, just like some people won the business lottery. But when people do well in business, we tax them and give the money to the poor to balance things out. Why not do the same with dating? Some people are so unskilled that they can only work really bad jobs. In those cases, the state steps in and dictates a minimum wage. If the value you can add to your employer's business is lower than the minimum wage, then no one will hire you and you won't have a job. But, as the state says, it's for your own sake, since you don't have free choice of jobs. In the same way, people who are too ugly to get anything but undesirable partners will have to be prohibited from dating until they are so attractive that they can be considered to have a free choice on the dating market. What about the intellectual wholesomeness law then? Well, left liberals think that it's okay to tax candy and coke since these foodstuffs make you fat and ugly. If people are ugly and fat, they can't work, and that has a consequence for the whole of society. In the same way, if people only consume lowbrow culture like Game of Thrones, that makes them ugly and fat inside, and no one will have an inkling of the intricate symbolism, refined aesthetics, and deep reflections on the human condition. So for the good of society, and for the good of people who are too stupid to realise that they should be reading Proust, it's better if we tax things like Game of Thrones whilst keeping Proust tax-free.
Ironic.
This is where the main character of this video comes in. No, not that one. This one. Robert Nozick, the right liberal philosopher. What he says is that left liberalism is not consistent. It applies redistribution in the economic realm, but thinks it's wrong to do so in the social realm. On this parallel planet we just saw, people are also left liberals, but they take their political orientation much more seriously. They want to be consistent. So they apply redistribution in the economic realm and the social realm. But the left liberals on our planet obviously don't think that's a good idea. According to Nozick, that makes them inconsistent. Nozick says that left liberals have to choose. Either they have to do as the people do on this parallel planet and apply redistributive policies on both social and economic questions, or they will have to do as he does and apply freedom in both areas. Then they would be consistent in their politics. But they would no longer be left liberals. They would in fact be right liberals. Now, why would that be?
Is it possible to learn this power?
Not from a Jedi.
Left liberals say that you can tax things like candy and Coca-Cola. Yes, such taxes limit a person's free choice, they say, but the freedom to gorge on candy and Coke is a trivial freedom, so it isn't too important if we tax it. But Nozick asks, why isn't the freedom to watch Game of Thrones a trivial freedom? Why do you think it's okay to tax one but not the other? Again, you will have to make a choice. You must apply freedom in both spheres, or you must apply redistribution in both spheres. You can't have it both ways. Why can't you have it both ways? One reason is that it's not consistent. The other is that if you want to have different rules for the two spheres, you will have to prove that they are not connected. Is this possible? Let's take an example from our own planet. A man owns a small indie bookstore in San Francisco. He doesn't want to be part of a franchise. He doesn't want to sell books that could really boost his sales, such as crime novels, Harry Potter, and 50 Shades of Grey. No, he only wants to deal in the obscure science fiction that is his passion. He knows full well that he could earn more money selling popular books, but that's not what he wants to do with his life. That's not his dream. He just wants to spend his days dealing with the science fiction novels that he loves. Then the politicians step in and raise the minimum wage. Since the bookstore was only marginally profitable, the higher minimum wage means that he has to go out of business. So, the exact thing that was this man's passion and dream and what he wanted to do with his life has now been rendered unsustainable. Is this an economic issue or is it a social issue? Left liberals would like to pretend that it's only an economic issue, but Nozick says it's plainly both. If left liberals want to apply redistribution in the economic realm, but not the social realm, they have to prove that these domains are separate and not connected. But they can't, because some of the time they clearly are. Since left liberals can't prove the independence of these two domains, they do not have a consistent position. In Nozick's opinion, they are philosophically in checkmate. If left liberals were serious about freedom, they would have to apply it across the board, and that would shift their allegiance from left liberalism to right liberalism.